live and welcome to week 7. Welcome to the dead zone. We are here another week. I can't believe how fast these weeks go by. I've been watching Steven and Ryan's show. They're still live. If you have start sick questions, they're still live right here on the Yards for Fantasy channel. Check those guys out. We're going to take a little victory lap right now. As usual, right? We're always victory lapping. We're pretty good at this. We're pretty good at this. How about 0 RB this year? There weren't a lot of sites touting 0 RB in 2023. I mean, there were a few. We were touting it pretty hard. The 0 RB draft strategy. This was the year. I said it. This is the best year ever since the inception of the 0 RB draft strategy. This was the best year to ever draft 0 RB. And man, big W for us who did draft 0 RB heavily in 2023. I mean, between all the running back injuries, Nick Chubb, Saquon missed several weeks, Aaron Jones, so many injuries at the running back position. But not only that, the guys that we were drafting for our 0 RB teams, or if we weren't drafting 0 RB, then we were drafting hero RB. We were certainly not drafting 2 running backs in the first 5 or 6 rounds. So we were waiting until round 3, round 4. We would take one guy, and then later in like round 7, round 8, 6 even, start drafting other guys. And if you look at the fantasy points leaders at running back right now, of course we got Christian McCaffrey at the top. We were never saying pass on Christian McCaffrey. Raheem Mostert is the RB2 in fantasy football right now. His ADP was outside the top 10 rounds for the majority of the summer. It rose a bit at the end. It was a little bit more appropriate at the end, but even then, even if you drafted him in the 8th round, he is smashing that ADP. And Travis Etienne was one of the guys that we were getting at value in the 4th round. You were drafting Travis Etienne in round 4 as our anchor, as our hero RB. He's the RB3 in fantasy football. Kyren Williams wasn't even drafted in a lot of leagues. Zach Moss is the RB5 in fantasy points. Not even drafted in most leagues. And if he was at the end of the draft after the Jonathan Taylor news. And even then, people were drafting Deion Jackson. Devon Achane is the RB6. ADP outside the top 10 rounds. DeAndre Swift is the RB7. His ADP was round 6, round 7. And then a guy who I was telling you all summer long not to draft in the top 10, not the top 10 running backs, the top 10 overall, is barely a top 10 running back in total fantasy points, despite his unbelievable talent. That's Bijan Robinson. He's the RB8 in total fantasy points. He's RB12 in fantasy points per game. Not a guy you wanted to draft in the top 10. I told you not to do it. Tony Pollard, he was a guy who was going in the 1st round. He's the RB9 with all these other guys going ahead of him. Kenneth Walker was a guy that we loved in round 4, round 5. He's a top 10 running back. And then guys who are being drafted too high. Josh Jacobs, outside the top 10. Derrick Henry, outside the top 10. And then right below those guys is Isaiah Pacheco, who you could have got in the 6th, 7th, 8th round. Dave Montgomery's a top 15 running back in total fantasy points, and he's certainly higher in fantasy points per game. He was a win for us. So it's just been a great year. It's been a great year. The 0 RB, the draft strategy. This was the year. We said it. This was the year. And it's turning out to be the year. It's turning out to be the year. So I just had to do, we just had to victory lap that a little bit. I usually like to start with, there's always some type of thing to victory lap. And that was it today. But what we're doing is what we've done, for numerous Saturday nights at this point. And that's going through the running back and wide receiver rankings. We're going to rank them, and we're going to rank them in tiers for week 7. And we're going to start. I will have to share the screen and do a little shifting around here, but we'll kind of just go through the week 7 running backs. As we go through that, drop your start sit questions in the YouTube chat. We'll answer those. We'll kind of rank a few guys and answer a few questions, rank a few guys, answer a few questions. And then we'll switch over to wide receivers. I think we'll probably do like top 20 running backs, top 20 wide receivers, try to get in and out of here within about an hour or so. Kind of, talk about each running back and, help with your lineup decisions. So let's start sharing screen here. Here we go. Now, if you haven't seen these, I've done a couple of these shows where we do the rankings tiers. If you haven't seen those to this point, let me kind of adjust where I'm going to be on the screen here. If you haven't seen any of these, the funnest part is watching me struggle to find these players in this massive pool of player images to pull them up into the tier ranker here. So it's a lot of fun. It's great content. Let me just watching me just squint and struggle to find these guys. But we're going to start with the running backs. Obviously, number 1 running back is going to be Christian McCaffrey. As long as he's on the field, as long as he's playing, Christian McCaffrey is the number 1 running back in fantasy football. And he's got the tier all to himself. He's got that top tier all to himself. Nobody can touch him right now. He's absolutely dominant. He does have that oblique injury, but it sounds like he's going to be good to go. And if he's not good to go, I think we're firing up Elijah Mitchell. I know Jordan Mason got most of the work after McCaffrey left the game last week, but that was Mitchell's first game back. And Mitchell is like the quintessential Kyle Shanahan style running back. He's about 195 pounds, got really good speed. He can get to the edge, cut up field. He's that style of running back. Really thrives in that zone running scheme. Whereas Jordan Mason is like the complete opposite. He's 215 pounds. He runs a 4.65. He's not the Kyle Shanahan style running back. So I fully expect McCaffrey to play, but if McCaffrey doesn't play, either this week or in the future, as long as Elijah Mitchell is healthy, he's the guy that I want to play. He's the guy I'm putting my money on in that backfield behind Christian McCaffrey. So my RB2 for this week is going to be Kenneth Walker. He got a really good matchup going against the Cardinals this week. He's been playing well. He's an explosive runner. He hasn't ceded touches to Zach Charbonnet the way a lot of people were afraid that he was going to. And this is what I was talking about. I struggle to find these guys in this giant pool of players here. If you see Zach Charbonnet, can you let me know? Because I'm not Zach Charbonnet. Kenneth Walker, here he is. Let me know where he is. But he has not ceded the touches to Zach Charbonnet that a lot of people are afraid of. I made a video, I think it was pre-training camp, kind of trying to decipher what was going to happen with certain backfields that had question marks like this one. And my conclusion came out to be, this was a pretty definitive situation. It was still Kenneth Walker's backfield. He was going to get the majority of the touches. He might lose a little bit of work at the goal line, might lose a little bit of work in short yardage and in the passing game. but for the most part, he was still going to be the king of the backfield, and that's how it's played out. My RB3 for the week originally was Travis Etienne. Obviously, he's already played on Thursday Night Football, and he was excellent. He scored 2 touchdowns in 3 straight weeks now, Travis Etienne. So that, obviously, we don't have to rank him here. So the next running back is going to be Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler came back last week. First game since week 1. And he was all right. Didn't do a whole lot for us, but we got to temper expectations a little bit on his first game back. But now he's got a game back under his belt, and he's going against the Chiefs. A lot of points going to be scored in that game. A lot of passing, which is not a bad thing, especially for an Austin Eckler type running back. Especially when you don't have a Mike Williams in that offense. And, you got Keenan Allen, of course, but the next 2 wide receivers are Josh Palmer, who's done well. He's a replacement level, starting, caliber wide receiver in the NFL. He's nothing special, but he gets the job done. And then you got, the biggest bust of the first round this year in Quentin Johnston, as expected, hashtag as expected. So when you have those 2 guys after Keenan Allen, you're going to have to rely on Austin Eckler in the passing game. Not that they wouldn't anyway. But we saw last year when Mike Williams and Keenan Allen missed time that they leaned on Eckler significantly with targets. So I expect Eckler is going to be pretty heavily involved in this game, in the passing game. And then we got Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert comes in as my RB4. And I know they get Jeff Wilson coming back. He's going to be active. He's going to play. He's been practicing all week. I believe he practiced last week. I just didn't activate him. But he's no threat. At least right now, he's no threat to Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert has been absolutely tearing it up. He's dominating. Absolutely dominating. He's at 31 years old, the dude still has electric speed. And he's explosive. And in that offense, I mean, how do you account? How do you account for Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? And then also have to worry about the running game with Raheem Mostert, who isn't just running at a high level, he's catching passes out of the backfield at a high level. Dominating in the red zone. He's got, 11 total touchdowns on the season? So, Raheem Mostert, easy top 5 running back on the week. All right, we got the first top 4 running backs. Let's answer a couple questions here. I was just going to say, this is Sawyer. I was just going to say I might put Ken Walker. Yeah. I mean, he's definitely a candidate to be put in that top tier with Christian McCaffrey. And to answer your other question, answer this question here, this is for week 7. This is for week 7 only, not rest of season. This is for week 7. We try to do this every week, Saturday nights before the game. Kind of just work through the rankings, talk it through. Sometimes I'll make some, as we're talking things through and we discuss with the chat and everything, sometimes I get talked into, I might talk myself into, or sometimes you guys talk me into making a little bit of a change to our rankings at yardsperfantasy.com. I'll make them live right on air. We'll make live ranking changes as we're talking through these guys. So we're kind of just stress testing these running backs. And then obviously we'll get to the wide receivers as well. All right, let's move on. We got DeAndre Swift is going to come in next. DeAndre Swift has been everything in Philadelphia that we wanted him to be in Detroit. He just, between injuries and I don't know what else his other issues were, something off the field was the reason, because the talent was always there. Whether he wasn't putting in the work that he needed to, he wasn't, I don't know, was he clashing with coach? I don't know. Maybe they didn't appreciate his 3-down skill set like the Eagles are appreciating. They wanted to just box him into that, what we're seeing from Jahmyr Gibbs type of role right now. where he's just involved in the passing game with a few carries here and there, and I don't know, he wasn't happy about that. I don't know what it was, but he is thriving in Philadelphia. Of course, playing behind that Philadelphia offensive line. Doesn't hurt. Playing with the threat of Jalen Hurts taken off doesn't hurt. Playing with A.J. Brown over here, Devontae Smith over here, and then Dallas Goedert in the middle of the field, that certainly doesn't hurt either. So it's just the absolutely ideal situation for DeAndre Swift. And we talked about the top of the show how zero RB is the winning strategy of 2023 as we predicted coming into the season. And DeAndre Swift was probably the perfect zero RB target. You know, he had that 7th round, 6th round ADP. You know, he has the elite athleticism. He's still young. He has excellent skills in the passing game, great offense. You know, and the reason he was dropping so low was because we didn't know. Nobody knew. Was it going to be Swift? Was it going to be Rashad Penny? Was it going to be Kenneth Gainwell? Like it was in week 1. Remember Kenneth Gainwell back in week 1? He started. He's the bell cow. We were panicking about DeAndre Swift. Was it going to be just a 3-headed clusterfuck? Nobody knew. Nobody knew. And that's why his ADP slid so far. And, you know, it worked out. So coming in next is Bijan Robinson. He's my RB6. See if we can find him. Bijan's been good, you know, as we would have expected. But he hasn't been elite. I mean, he's played at an elite level. He hasn't produced as far as fantasy football at an elite level. A lot of that is just because they weren't going to stuff Tyler Algier back in the box. Tyler Algier broke out as a rookie, played well in the second half of the season. And you're not just going to take that guy and stuff him back in the box like he never happened and just say, no, you're not playing. You're on the bench. You're going to get a significant amount of touches. That's what they're going to do. Whether we agree with it or not, that's what they're doing, and just can't be a surprise. So Bijan Robinson would have been a great pick in the second round of drafts. However, his ADP was in the top 10. I can't say he's a first round fantasy football bust by any means. He's certainly not. But you could have done better with that first round pick. Josh Jacobs comes in next for me. I think this is where the teardrop is. We'll put Bijan up there right behind Swift. And then we'll do a little teardrop there with Josh Jacobs once we can find him. There he is. Right. Slide him up. Scroll up. I wish this was a little bit smoother. I wish you could just click on a guy and you would just pop up there. Fortunately, it doesn't work that way. Yeah, Josh Jacobs has underwhelmed. Josh Jacobs has underwhelmed, but he got a great matchup going against the Bears this week. And you know they're going to lean on him, just like they did when Aiden O'Connell started a couple weeks ago. This week it's going to be Brian Hoyer. But they're going to lean on him on the ground. They're going to lean on him in the passing game. I think when Aiden O'Connell played in week 4, was it? Week 5, maybe? I want to say it was week 4. I think Josh Jacobs had like a 25, 26% target share. They were feeding him targets, feeding him carries. I expect a similar performance today or tomorrow. And we got Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco is another one of these guys who is a big winner for us if we were drafting 0 RB. This is one of the guys. This is one of the reasons. Isaiah Pacheco is one of the top reasons why we wanted to draft 0 RB. Could get him in the 7th round. Could get him in the 8th round. And I think he's an RB1 rest of the season. If not, he's not far outside. I just moved him up the dynasty rankings this week. I think he broke into the top 12. He's a full-blown bell cow in a great offense. Underperforming offense, but it's still, the Patrick Mahomes offense. And then we get to Jahmyr Gibbs. A guy who I was telling you not to draft this year. Another victory. Now, remember a few weeks ago when David Montgomery missed with his thigh injury, I believe it was. Jahmyr Gibbs had 17 carries in that game. Now, he wasn't super efficient with it. He didn't really give us the fantasy football performance that we expected, really. But the role was there. I expect that to be the same this week. And if the efficiency is better, he's going to smash. So he's a top 10 running back. Next guy is Saquon Barkley. Saquon, where are you? Saquon, where are you? Well, Saquon is going against the Commanders. That game could be pretty gross. Daniel Jones is going to be out again. They're going to play Tyrod Taylor. And the Commanders' offense is nothing to be excited about. So Saquon running behind with a backup quarterback, a terrible offensive line. He's still recovering from his own ankle injury. I can't find him on the same list. Anybody see Saquon? He's probably right in front of my face, and I cannot see him. But it doesn't matter. He's my RB10. Then we move on to Jonathan Taylor. So Jonathan Taylor, I think we're taking a little bit of leap of faith, ranking him as a top 12 running back this week. Now, his first game back, he only played 15% of the snaps. But then last week, as you would have expected, that role grew up to 42%. So it was nearly 50-50. It was getting there. It wasn't quite 50-50 with Zach Moss, but it was close. It was close. He still ran 36% of the routes. He still had 11.5% target share. I mean, Zach Moss out-targeted him. But he was still heavily involved in the passing game. Now, the issue with this week is why we're not completely wheels up on him yet is because of the matchup. It's going against the Browns. The Browns have been, I feel like they've kind of been under the radar almost. Here's Saquon, by the way. I feel like the Browns, as good as they've been, I know they've gotten some credit for it, but I still don't think they've gotten the full credit for how dominant that defense has been through the first 6 weeks. Dominant. So it's going to be a tough game for Jonathan Taylor. But the role should be there. I don't expect he's going to get 80% like he's seen in the past, but I think he can get to 65% this week. And that's plenty. Plenty for Jonathan Taylor, especially if he sees targets like he did last week. He's going to be just fine. Then we move to, now Alvin Kamara would have been next to my rankings originally. Obviously, he's already played. Then we go to Aaron Jones. So Aaron Jones has barely played this year. He's been battling injuries pretty much from the start. Looks like he is definitely back this week, which is great news because A.J. Dillon has been a zero. A.J. Dillon just hasn't gotten it done. So we got Aaron Jones as my RB12, if you don't include the guys who played on Thursday Night Football. Then we got Rachaad White. Rachaad White was one of the guys we talked about zero RB. He's one of the guys why we wanted to draft zero RB, because we wanted Rachaad White. And while the role has been everything, that we projected it would be, everything you could ever dream of for a running back. the efficiency has been about as bad as you could expect. It's been terrible. But he still has no competition in that backfield. Keyshawn Vaughn is not coming to save the day. Sean Tucker is not coming to save the day. It's just not happening. So we got to keep starting. We got to keep playing Rachaad White because he's getting the role. He's getting the role. He's seeing targets. He's getting carries. He's getting all the snaps. He's going to have weeks. He is going to have weeks. And with all the bye weeks, it's hard to not have him in your lineup this week. I think we got 6 teams on a bye. And while we're talking about Rachaad White, and as you can see in the rankings, answers this question here: Deontay Foreman or Rachaad White? We're going to play Rachaad White. Like I said, he still has that role. We got to trust it. We got to trust it. Coming in after that is Alexander Madison. He's another guy who hasn't played all that well. He hasn't been efficient. Again, as expected, although with Rachaad White, I did expect him to play well. I really did. I was a big Rachaad White guy coming into the season. That hasn't really played out at all. Alexander Madison, he was losing snaps to Cam Akers for about 2 or 3 weeks after Cam Akers was traded there. It was creeping. It was creeping towards a 50-50 split. And then all of a sudden last week, it's like the Vikings were like, you know what? Cam Akers, you're really not that good, bud. You're not that good. Take a little seat over here on the bench. You're really not that good. And that's saying something when it's in comparison to Alexander Madison. So, RIP Cam Akers. Brian Robinson comes in as my next running back. Interesting stat that I came across in my research this week. And I tweeted it out. I think it was on Monday or Tuesday. The Commanders have not had a running back that has led the team in snaps in back-to-back weeks since week 1 and 2. Brian Robinson led the team in snaps in week 1 and week 2, and then it has just flip-flopped every single week. It's Antonio Gibson this week. It's Brian Robinson that week. Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson. But I feel like Brian Robinson is the one that we can trust the most. He's pretty game script dependent, is kind of how this backfield is playing out. When they're playing from behind and they need to pass the ball, they're playing Antonio Gibson. When they're playing from ahead or in neutral game script, they're grounding and pounding with Brian Robinson. And going against the Giants this week, I expect the game script is going to be the latter. It's going to be the ground and pound. They're going to be playing from a lead. And if they're not playing from a lead, it's going to be damn close. So they're going to lean on Brian Robinson. Next comes James Cook. James Cook has been, I'd say disappointing, but he wasn't a guy that if you were using our rankings, probably not a guy you were drafting. I have very few shares of James Cook. He's had the role. The role's been fine. He's not getting a ton of work in the red zone. He's losing a lot of that to Latavius Murray, but he's not that great. He's really not that good of a player. He's not catching enough passes. He's not getting the red zone work. He's not efficient enough as a runner. It's just not happening. Then we get Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford, I'm not sure he's going to be on this list of running back pictures that we have here. We can search for him. Jerome Ford, where are you, bud? Yeah, I'm not going to search too hard because I don't believe he's going to be on here. But he's a guy who he took over for the injury to Nick Chubb, and he just ran into some bad matchups. He ran into some bad matchups, and then they brought in Kareem Hunt, who's shared the work a bit. But this week he's got a good matchup against the Colts. So I think we can trust him as a top 20 running back. Then we move on to Najee Harris. This guy has been Talk about inefficient. Oh man, this guy has struggled, man. He is this generation's Trent Richardson. Had that great rookie year. Really impressed. A lot of that was, though, looking back, a lot of that came because he was getting checkdowns from the noodle-armed Ben Roethlisberger at the end of his career. That's where he got a lot of his fantasy points. The offensive line is terrible. The offense as a whole is terrible. Kenny Pickett is not good. He's not a good quarterback. He's just not. He's not happening. Kenny Pickett is not happening. And I don't know if he's going to happen. I really don't know. And I wish I had stuck with that take because I came into the summer. I was like, Kenny Pickett ain't it. Kenny Pickett ain't it. I don't believe in Kenny Pickett. I don't believe in the offense. I don't believe in the running game. It's not it. And then I got talked into him, man. I got talked into him. I started to believe. I started to believe in Kenny Pickett. I started to believe in the Steelers offense. By the end of the summer, we got training camp report after training camp report. This offense was playing well. Kenny Pickett was playing well. They looked good in preseason. And then we get to the regular season, and they're everything I originally expected them to be. And I really wish I had just stuck with that. It's unfortunate. But Najee Harris, not good. Not good. And he's going to continue to lose touches to Jalen Warren. And he just has to. He has to. You can't watch these two running backs play and say, we got to keep feeding Najee Harris. It just doesn't make any sense. Next, we got Ramondre Stevenson. And then we'll get to this question here. Ramondre is another guy who has just been as inefficient as it gets. And this is one that I did not really see coming. Now, if you had told me, he wasn't going to be as good as he was last year, sure, I'm with you. And it's not because of Zeke. It's not because of Zeke. He's just not playing well. The offensive line is a different combination of starters every single week. They've been through a ton of injuries, not that great to begin with. The entire offense sucks. Mac Jones sucks. The wide receivers suck. Terrible. Awful. By far the worst offense in the league. What are you going to expect Ramondre Stevenson to do? You know what I mean? And we'll wrap up the running back rankings with Javonte Williams. Another guy who is in a bad offense behind a not so great offensive line. I mean, they're not terrible. The offense hasn't been great. But then also on the other side, the flip side, the defense hasn't been good either. The defense has been really, 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 really bad, which is not good for your own running back. Because if they're always playing from behind, they can't hand the ball off to Javonte Williams 15, 20 times a game. And then when you also mix in Samaje Perine and Jaleel McLaughlin, he's never going to get there. And you also, on top of that, you factor in he's still recovering from a significant knee injury. It was not just a clean ACL. That's a significant multi-ligament tear. I can't talk. Multi-ligament tear. There we go. We got it. So all those factors come together, and Javonte Williams was on the do not draft list, and we're seeing why. But again, with all the bye weeks this week, he might be a guy you have to play. All right. So you can see the rest of my running back rankings on yardsperfantasy.com. And we'll answer whatever we have here for questions, and then we'll flip over and we'll do the wide receiver rankings. Look at this question here. Should I trade Mark Andrews for Devontae Smith? I have Sam Laporta. I mean, if you have Sam Laporta, yeah, I'm definitely putting Mark Andrews on the block. I'm trading one of those tight ends. But I think you can shoot higher. I think you can shoot higher. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe you can get Devontae Smith plus. I do believe Devontae Smith is a buy. I would probably accept that trade, but I would want like a little sweetener on top of Devontae Smith because I think you can just squeeze a little bit of value out of it. But yeah, I would do that if you have Sam Laporta. You're starting Sam Laporta, and then you're going to start Devontae Smith. If you really need wide receivers. I made a video this week talking about how Devontae Smith is one of my top trade targets heading into Week 7. So I like where your mind is with that. Devontae Smith has been disappointing, absolutely, and last week was about as disappointing as it gets. But he still led the team in targets, and not just like, oh, he led the team with 6 targets. He led the team with 11 targets. He had a 25% target share. He was top 5 in the NFL in air yards. He's had over 100 air yards in 4 of his 6 games. Eventually, those are going to result in actual yards. He's going to get big plays. He's going to have those big boom weeks. And I really believe that could come as soon as this week, tomorrow night. What a game that's going to be. Sunday Night Football. I knew the Dolphins and Eagles were playing on Sunday. I did not realize it was the night game. When I realized that earlier today, I was like, oh, yes, we finally get a great night game. We don't have to watch the Giants in prime time. We don't have to watch the Jets in prime time. We get to see the Dolphins and the Eagles. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. And I think Devontae Smith could have his first real big explosive game of the season tomorrow night against the Dolphins, because there's going to be a lot of points scored in that game. And, the Dolphins are the Dolphins. They're going to score points. They're going to score points. Even against a tough Eagles defense, they're going to score points, which is going to mean that the Eagles are going to have to throw the ball. They're going to have to throw the ball to keep up with that Dolphins offense. And if those air yards and those targets come together and things kind of swing a little bit differently, the luck is more in Devontae Smith's favor, he could really, really have an explosive week. I could see 6 catches, 112 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Devontae Smith. So this could be the week. This could be the week. I'm firing him up, and yeah, I would make that deal. Sonny is asking, is Brian Robinson worth having as an RB2 or Jeff Wilson? See, that's really, really difficult because Jeff Wilson just got activated. Raheem Mostert's playing so well. Devon Achane is going to be back in a few weeks. How does this backfield shake out? I think rest of season, I think I still got to lean Brian Robinson. But I would love to have Jeff Wilson. Let's just see what happens. I've been saying all season long, I want as many pieces of this Dolphins offense, any piece I can get my hands on. Any piece of this Dolphins offense I can get my hands on, I want it. Because they're trending to be the greatest offense in NFL history. I want guys in that offense. So if you can stash Jeff Wilson, I would do it. If I had to choose between 2 of those guys, now, maybe it's not as black and white as I originally said it would. Because if you are really good at running back and you're never going to play Brian Robinson, then I believe Jeff Wilson is the stash. Because Jeff Wilson is going to give you the most upside. But if you're looking like, all right, I might have to play one of these guys for a few weeks, I'm going to have to play these guys in my flex, I'm going to have to play one of these guys in my RB2, and you said it's my RB2. So I think Brian Robinson's probably the guy you can trust for that more than Jeff Wilson. But if you want to take that big swing and you want the upside, it would be Jeff Wilson. Thoughts on DeAndre Hopkins, trade or hold and keep playing him? I mean, if you have, I talked about this with Hunter and Zach last night on one of the personalized podcasts that we do. We were talking about a league, and DeAndre Hopkins came up. And it's tough because DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, if any wide receiver can survive a combination of Malik Willis and Will Levis, it is DeAndre Hopkins. He has proven for a decade that he's quarterback proof. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to be a great play. And if you can get market value for him, if you can get proper value back for him, yeah, I would definitely at least entertain offers. But I'm not sure you can get back what I would want to get back for a DeAndre Hopkins, in which case I think you got to hold him and just hope that maybe he has a big week and then you put him on the block. But he's going to be fine as like your wide receiver 3 or flex play rest of season. He's going to have volume. He's going to be the number one target in that offense. It's just the ceiling is not there. By the way, I have McCaffrey and Jacobs and Kyron, but Kyron is out, and McCaffrey is questionable for Monday's games. I have to make a decision. I'm not sure if you're asking if McCaffrey. I'm trusting that McCaffrey's playing. If I have McCaffrey, he's in my lineup. I know he's playing on Monday Night Football. All indications are he's playing. So I'm trusting that. And if in the case that he doesn't play, I'm sure you can probably find one of those Rams running backs on your waiver wire and just toss them in there. Although, is that not who they're playing? No, they're not playing the Rams. Why am I thinking they're playing the Rams? Maybe because you asked. They're playing the Vikings. You can probably pick up Cam Akers. No, fuck that. I'm trusting that McCaffrey's playing, is the point. And as soon as Kyron starts practicing, as soon as they say, hey, we're going to designate him off IR, because they did put him on IR today, trade his ass. All right, let's get to the wide receivers. We got to stop sharing the screen, and then we got to restart sharing the screen to the wide receivers. If you have more questions, drop them in the chat as we go through. We will often answer questions. But we're going to get to these wide receiver rankings. And we'll start with the wide receiver 1. Pretty easy. No brainer, right? Tyreek Hill. This is your league winner. This is the guy, if he's on your roster, you have a chance to win every single week, no matter who else is in your lineup. He gives you a chance to win every single week. He's going to give you a chance to win the league. We don't really have to talk about him. Cooper Kupp comes in with wide receiver 2. Welcome back, Cooper Kupp. He's right back as a top 3 wide receiver in fantasy football. He got over the hamstring injury, and I'll tell you, I had a lot of concerns. Coming into the season with that hamstring. I mean, have we ever, before Cooper Kupp, have we ever heard of a guy needing to go to a hamstring specialist? That was scary. That was terrifying. So for him to be able to come back after the 4 weeks and just be wheels up and just be Cooper Kupp is pretty miraculous, and it's exciting. So wheels up for him. He's the wide receiver 2 on the week for me, and then it comes in as Stephon Diggs. He's another guy who is absolutely crushing it right now. The Patriots, I mean, the defense has been okay. The defense has been fine, but they 2 weeks ago, they lost their number one corner, probably for the season, and they lost their number one pass rusher for the season. Now, I know they went out and traded for J.C. Jackson, but J.C. Jackson underwhelmed in Los Angeles. So I expect Stephon Diggs probably going to have a pretty good game. Now, the only concern is, does this game get to the point total that we would want for a big Stephon Diggs blow-up game? Probably not. It's probably more like your 24-7 type of game, I would guess, where the Bills maybe get enough points to get there for Stephon Diggs, but not like, oh, this is a huge boom week for Diggs. You know what I mean? So I'll go Diggs there as wide receiver 3, and then it comes in for A.J. Brown. And this is a guy who I can see having a big boom week this week. We already talked about it with Devontae Smith, but there are going to be a lot of points scored in that game on Sunday Night Football between the Eagles and the Dolphins. Lots of passing, because the Eagles are going to have to keep up with Tua Tagovailoa, with Tyreek Hill, with Jalen Waddle, with Raheem Mostert, and so on, and all the points that they're going to score. So they're going to have to throw the ball quite a bit. But it's going to be great news for A.J. Brown. It's going to be great news for Devontae Smith. I think both of them could have a really big week. I think Keenan Allen could also have a really big week. Another game that could have a lot of points scored and a lot of passing. And where is Keenan Allen? Found Quentin Johnston. At least somebody found Quentin Johnston, because Justin Herbert's never going to find him because he's not very good. Yeah, Keenan Allen, I think he belongs in that tier. And I think Amon-Ra St. Brown belongs in that tier as well. You guys think there should be a tier break in Keenan Allen to Amon-Ra St. Brown? I don't think so. Let me know in the chat. What do you think? But Amon-Ra has been steady. He's been great. Scored a couple touchdowns, which is great. Another guy who has been really steady and really good. I think this is where we have the tier break, but he's been really good. That's Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk, he was the number one trade target in all of fantasy football this week. You had to go get him. And now it sounds like Deebo Samuel is going to miss at least 2 games, if not more, which is just going to mean even more Brandon Ayuk. Then we got Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a guy who I was very wrong about this year. Very wrong about, because I mean, if you look back at last year, Mike Evans, he looked borderline dusty. He was not playing well. He scored 35% of his fantasy points in a combination of 2 games. He scored half of his touchdowns in week 17. Half of them in 1 game. And that was with Tom Brady at quarterback. Now they're going from Brady to Baker Mayfield. I thought it was over. I really thought it was over for Mike Evans. But he has been as good as he's ever been this year. He's been as good as he's ever been. Coming off the hamstring injury, he's good to go. He's with the wide receiver 8 for the week. And then we got Jalen Waddle. And I think we talked about it on last Sunday's Start Sit show, that was going to be the week. It was going to be the week that we trusted Jalen Waddle. He was finally going to hit, and he finally hit. And we've talked about that how the Dolphins-Eagles game is going to be great for the Eagles pass catchers. It's probably going to be pretty good for the Dolphins pass catchers too. Lots and lots of points, lots and lots of passing. Should be a really fun game. So Jalen Waddle, lock him in as a top 10 wide receiver. And then we get to Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is my wide receiver 10 for the week. This one is hopefully going to be like a squeaky wheel gets the grease type of game. Hopefully. But man, it's hard to trust. It's hard to trust with Brian Hoyer because they could full on game plan Devontae Adams to be heavily involved in this game. But Brian Hoyer might just not be capable of getting Devontae Adams the volume that he needs. And not just the targets and the catches, but the downfield targets and catches. I mean, Brian Hoyer can complete as many bubble screens to Devontae Adams as he wants. He can complete as many screens and curl routes to Devontae Adams as he wants. But we need the downfield plays if Devontae Adams is going to really hit for us. We need the red zone targets. That's what I'm concerned about. Now, if he's ever going to do it, it's probably going to be against the Bears defense. So I think we still got to trust Devontae Adams as a top 10 wide receiver. And just hope Jimmy Garoppolo comes back very soon. I don't know if anybody's ever said that sentence, but that's what we're hoping for at this point. And then we got DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf, he's got some injury things going on here, but sounds like he's going to be good to go. He's going to play. And if DK Metcalf is playing and he's going against the Cardinals, who have been very susceptible to wide receivers this year, we got to play DK Metcalf as a top 12 wide receiver. Where is he on this list? I see Tyler Lockett. That doesn't help us. Well, we'll keep searching. Here he is. And after DK Metcalf, I think we'll start a new tier here. After DK Metcalf comes in, it is the almighty, the Puka Nacua, the almighty Puka Nacua, who is just apparently, I don't know, dropped from heaven because he is a miracle. And still probably one of the most baffling players that I have ever come across since I've been doing this. Puka Nacua was not supposed to be this good. He was not supposed to be good, period. Okay? He was not. And don't let anybody tell you that they thought he was going to be this good. Anywhere close to it, because they're lying. Did they think he could be productive? Sure. Nobody saw this coming. Nobody. And he is on track to break record. And even last week, and the reason why we're trusting him still, because last week, it was a down week for him, right? It was a down week. I believe he dropped a long touchdown, so it could have been a bigger week. But he also, even with Cooper Kupp going off, Puka Nacua had a 33% target share. He saw a third of the targets. There's nobody else catching passes in that offense. It's Cooper Kupp and it's Puka Nacua. That is it. That is it. And now they don't have a running back to give it to. I don't know if they're going to run it a single time. So Puka Nacua has to be, he's my wide receiver 13 for the week. Now, obviously, I had Chris Olave ranked as well. So Puka Nacua kind of does slide up to wide receiver 12 because, Olave already played. But yeah, Puka Nacua he's been really, really good. And then this is where we get to Devontae Smith, who we've already talked about. We've already talked about him a couple times. We talked about that game multiple times, so we're not going to really go into it. Like I said, I made a video talking all about Devontae Smith this week, so you can find that on the Yards Per Fantasy YouTube channel. And then after Devontae Smith is Michael Pittman. So first we're going to find Devontae Smith. Here he is right here. And then we're going to get to Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman has been a target monster. A target monster. I believe he's had double-digit targets in like 4 of 6 games, I want to say. It's almost every single week. And he's a guy who made a video about last week talking about how Gardner Minshew is a positive for Michael Pittman and Josh Downs, for that matter, because the Colts could call the same number of pass plays per game as they were with Anthony Richardson. But rather than running, taking off and scrambling with 6 of those, they're going to be all passes because Gardner Minshew is not the runner that Anthony Richardson is. Now, we've also talked about earlier in the show how the Cleveland Browns defense is elite, like elite. So this is going to be a really tough matchup. It's going to be a tough matchup. It's going to be a tough matchup for Pittman, but it's also going to be tough for like the Colts offensive line. It's going to be tough for Gardner Minshew. Now, does that mean that he crumbles and completes less than 50% of his passes and it's just a complete disaster? Could be. It could be. But could also just be a game where Gardner Minshew is like, I'm not going to have time to stand back here in this pocket. I can't afford to be scanning for all my other wide receivers. They're not going to be open anyway. I'm just going to force feed Michael Pittman all game long. That's what we got to hope for. Coming in after that is going to be DJ Moore. DJ Moore he's been pretty good. He got off to a slow start, but he's been good. Now, of course, we have the concerns of Bagent at quarterback instead of Justin Fields. So that's a big concern because that could be ugly. It could get really ugly. It could get really, really ugly. But when we have backup quarterbacks playing, more often than not, we can still trust the team's wide receiver one because they lock in. They lock in on their guy and they feed him volume. Now, that volume might be, the passing volume overall might be lower than, what you would normally get from your starting quarterback. And the efficiency is going to be down, but the higher target share will make up for it. So I think that's what we got to hope for with DJ Moore. And that's kind of what we've seen in Arizona with Marquise Brown. He's been consistently targeted at a high volume, high target share. And he comes in as the next wide receiver on the week. And then that brings us to Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett, we talked about DK Metcalf having a great matchup this week going against the Cardinals. Tyler Lockett has that same matchup. So we gotta like him this week. Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is my wide receiver 20 for the week. Really wide receiver 18 among these guys because we have the guys from Thursday Night Football that we have ranked ahead of him. But overall, he was my wide receiver 20 for the week. And he's kind of been a roller coaster, up and down. Mike Evans is back in the lineup this week, so that's going to hurt Chris Godwin. But I think we got to trust him as a top 20 wide receiver. Now, a guy who is getting his quarterback back this week is Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper actually did well with PJ Walker. He wasn't, like I talked about, with these guys with the backup quarterbacks, They lock in on the number one target, especially when they're a big bodied guy like an Amari Cooper. You just throw it to him. You just throw it to him all day. And I think he only had 4 catches because the efficiency was bad on the targets. The catch rate was not good. But there was enough volume there that they were able to connect on 4. And he made some big plays down the field, run after the catch. Amari Cooper looked good. Amari Cooper looked good last week. And then the Colts have really struggled. The Colts defense has been really not good against wide receivers. So this could be a really, really nice game. Deshaun Watson back. Hopefully he connects with Amari Cooper. This could be a good game for him. And then that brings us to Drake London. Drake London got off to a really slow start. He had 1 target in week 1? But he's been good since then. He really has. He is now a guy that we can trust every single week. He's proven it to this point. He's a guy we can trust in our lineups every single week. The passing volume has gone up in Atlanta, which is great. And that's helping fuel Drake London. And he's playing well. He's a playmaker on the outside. He's a guy you can throw the ball to in the red zone, down the field, even underneath. He is a very underrated run after the catch guy. And that's something that he did well at USC. And he's showing that a little bit, at least in Atlanta. But he's perfect for a quarterback like Desmond Ridder, where he's not very good. And sometimes you gotta just chuck it. You just gotta chuck it to your guy. And he knows that Drake London is a guy that he can trust to just go up, make a play on the ball, not let the defender get his hands on it, and turn that 50-50 ball into like a 60-40 ball and make some spectacular catches. Go over the top of a defender. Come down with it. And we've seen some spectacular catches already this year from Drake London. Some of the best catches of the year come from Drake London. And we'll do one more guy here. Zay Flowers. Now, coming into last week, coming into week 6, I was talking all week. Zay Flowers, go buy Zay Flowers, go trade for Zay Flowers. All the indicators were there that the big weeks were coming. The big weeks were coming from Zay Flowers. The touchdowns were coming from Zay Flowers. The top 12 fantasy weeks were coming from Zay Flowers. And he wasted no time to prove it right. And he goes out on Sunday morning, scores as a top 12 wide receiver, his first NFL touchdown. And I think from here on out, it's wheels up for Zay Flowers because Odell Beckham doesn't have it anymore. He's okay. He's fine, but he's not the same Odell Beckham that he used to be, which is no surprise. That can't be a surprise. And he's been injured most of the year as it is. So he's battling injuries again. And Rashad Bateman, same thing. He ain't it. And that breaks my heart to say because I was a big Rashad Bateman guy. I still believe that Rashad Bateman can hit at some point, but it's not going to be now. He's got to get healthy. He's got to get fully healthy. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But right now it's not happening. And I think the Ravens are like, all right, that's not happening with Beckham. It's not happening with Bateman. So we got Mark Andrews and we got this rookie, this really good rookie. And one of the indicators that I liked about Zay Flowers coming into last week was that they were starting to use him down the field a lot more. Because the first few weeks of the season, his average target distance was very low. He was getting the target volume. He's had great target shares every single week. I think there was week 2, week 3, he had a 15% target share, but every other week he's been over 22%, over 25% a lot of weeks, a couple of weeks over 30% of the targets in that offense. Lamar Jackson's been playing well, but early in the year, his target depth was very low. And he's a good run after the catch guy, but that's not enough. It's not enough. to get us to where we want him to go for fantasy football. But then week 6, they really started to use him down the field a lot more, which is really encouraging, because if he's going to continue to see a high volume of targets, but then some of those targets going to be more valuable targets in the red zone, down the field, that's where it's going to be wheels up for Zay Flowers. So we're starting to see that over the last few weeks, and the fantasy production is matching, how that role has grown. So that's really exciting for Zay Flowers. But yeah, that's our top 20 or so wide receivers. If you have any questions, start set questions. I know we got to a few. We're gonna answer them real quick. Here's my guy Steven. Great show from him and Ryan tonight. They do a great job. The chat was blowing up for them. Tons of questions. They were doing a great job answering them. So I appreciate that. And they were still going. They were still going when I went on. They were going. They were just, the questions were coming in. They were swinging, hitting them out of the park. People were loving it, coming in, asking more and more and more. So it's really awesome to see those guys thriving on the YouTube channel for us. So hats off to them. Great job. Really appreciate them a lot. What about this question here? Should we trade Puka Nacua for Amon-Ra? Is this a good trade? Oh, yes, it is. It is a good trade. Puka Nacua for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Do it. Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. Because, yes, Puka Nacua is still going to be a startable wide receiver rest of the season. I think he's going to give you wide receiver 2 production rest of the season. Absolutely. He's a top 20 guy. He's a top 18 guy. He could be a top 15 guy rest of the season. But his fantasy production is going to be I got excited there. His fantasy production is going to be a little bit of a roller coaster compared to what it was over the first 4 or 5 weeks without Cooper Kupp. Now that Cooper Kupp's back, it's pretty clear that Cooper Kupp has returned to his status as the guy, which, of course, that's no surprise, right? It's no surprise. Cooper Kupp is elite, the elite of the elite wide receivers. But Puka Nacua still saw a 33% target share. He did. He still had a 33% target share last week. Now, he didn't hit for fantasy. He dropped a big touchdown. Things just didn't go his way. But that's what's going to happen in some weeks while Cooper Kupp is out there. Whereas Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's going to get that volume every single week. Now, I came into the season and I said this year for Amon-Ra St. Brown could be the Cooper Kupp of this year. Hasn't quite played out that way, but he's getting the volume. He's still seeing the red zone targets. He scored a couple of touchdowns, which coming into the year was like everybody was panicking. This guy doesn't score touchdowns. Anybody who's going to make a case against Amon-Ra St. Brown, all they could come up with was this guy doesn't score enough touchdowns. Well, he's gonna score touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to give you steady elite production every single week. So yes, I would make that trade. Long story to get to an easy answer for me. Trade Puka Nacua for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Because Amon-Ra is going to be a wide receiver 1 rest of the year. Puka is going to be a wide receiver 2. Plain and simple. Black and white. All right. Steven's going to ask a question. Oh boy. He said it was the most difficult question that he got in their show with Ryan prior to our show. Start 1. Zay Flowers or Isaiah Pacheco? Zay Flowers or Isaiah Pacheco? So let me pull up the matchups. Zay Flowers has the Lions, and Pacheco has the Chargers, of course. A lot of points going to be scored. Probably both of those games, actually. Which is going to be good for Zay Flowers. Man, you're right. This is a tough question. This is a tough question, especially from me, because we love both these guys, man. We love both of these guys. My heart loves both of these guys. My heart is with Pacheco. We called Pacheco before anybody knew Pacheco's name. We called him before he was even drafted. We loved Pacheco. So I've been like a proud dad sitting back and watching Isaiah Pacheco just have a great year, man. Zay Flowers have been pretty damn good. Zay Flowers have been pretty damn good. I'm going to go Pacheco, though. I'm going to go opposite of Steven. We'll make it fun. I am going to go Pacheco because Pacheco is a full-blown bell cow at this point. He's a full-blown bell cow. He's not just a full-blown bell cow. He's a full-blown bell cow. Say that 5 times fast. Full-blown bell cow in the Patrick Mahomes offense. Going against the Chargers, there's going to be a lot of points scored. There's going to be a lot of touchdown opportunities. Especially when you don't have, outside of Travis Kelce, the pass catchers that you can lean on. Especially down in the red zone. And they haven't been mixing in Jerick McKinnon the way that they have, the way that they did last year. Because that was the concern with Pacheco coming into this year was, yeah, he might get some carries. He might get some goal line work. But is he going to catch passes? Probably not. Well, he's catching passes. He's out targeting. He's out snapping. He's out catching Jerick McKinnon. He's playing about 60% of the snaps every single week, getting the goal line work. You know, they're not subbing him out for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So I'm going to go Pacheco there. I love both guys. I do like both guys. I don't think you really can go wrong with either. But Pacheco would be the play for me there. But yeah, I think that probably wraps it up for the night. We've gone over an hour already. We went through our running back rankings. We went through the wide receiver rankings. Had a lot of fun. We're going to be back here at 12:20 tomorrow. 12:20 tomorrow Eastern time. We're going to go and we're going to answer start sit questions all the way up to kickoff. And if you can't wait that long, jump on at 11:30 with the coach approach, where Coach Bruce and Brett, they are going to go through every single game on the slate. They're going to give you their favorite starts, their sits from each game. They're going to tell you who they think is going to win each game and why. And they're going to answer your start sit questions as they go through. They do a great job. Fantastic show. I usually like Sunday mornings, I like to like go for a walk before my show. So I put in the headphones, I turn on the coach approach, listen to those guys, and it kind of gets me going, gets me fired up, gets me ready, prepared for my show at 12:20. I come back, they wrap up usually around like 12. I get my stuff set up, and we go live, and we go all the way up to kickoff. So it's a lot of fun. And you can always, in the meantime, find us in the Yards for Fantasy Discord. Just go to yardsforfantasy.com, just find the link to the Discord, and we'll answer your questions on there in the meantime. But yeah, it was a good show. Appreciate you guys.